Okay, council, I think we can get started. I will call our work session to order. Today is September 23rd, 2025, and I will turn it over to Dana Bergdorf.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first call on Assistant City Manager Jess McAkron to introduce our new Economic Development Director.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So today is an exciting day because the Jessicas are taking over. Now, it is an absolute privilege to introduce our new Economic Development Director, Ms. Jessica Rogers, who we are affectionately calling JR for right now to try to avoid the confusion for our teams. And she joins us in addition to Jessica Hare at the Fort Worth EDP and Jessica Williams in law, all of which touch economic development in some way. So clearly that name is a powerhouse name. We'll just say it. So Jessica joined us 1 week ago on Monday, on September 15th, and she has quickly gotten immersed into the city of Fort Worth, meeting with a lot of our staff members, meeting with some external stakeholders already, and just getting familiar with what we have going on. She came to us from the city of Tomball, where she served as an assistant city manager, and prior to that, she worked for the city of Denton as the director of economic development. She brings extensive experience in fostering business growth, attracting new investment, and enhancing community vitality. She has led some transformative projects, developed innovative incentive programs, and established an economic development strategic plan, and that is one of the first initiatives that we have asked her to tackle is developing a new economic development strategic plan. Jessica is excited to work with Robert Allen and his team at the Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership as we work together to develop our strategy, focusing on business recruitment and retention, workforce development, small business development, and overall creating a vibrant and diverse economy for the city of Fort Worth. She holds a Master of Public Affairs degree from Indiana University's O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs, and a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M University, which I'm trying not to hold against her. Jessica and her husband, Scott, are already proud Fort Worth residents, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and her family.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. First, let me say, if I haven't already, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to serve with the city of Fort Worth. Everyone this past month, as I've been making this transition, has been nothing but kind and welcoming. In fact, I am losing my voice because you are so kind and so welcoming, and I've gotten to talk to so many people. And the transition to the organization and the community has been wonderful. I wanted to tell you that I'm not just excited to be in Fort Worth, I'm excited to be here right now in Fort Worth. I don't need to tell you about all the amazing things that are going on, but I do want to tell you the one thing that's exciting me the most, and that is two words that I've heard frequently: balance and partnerships. Economic development can look very different in different communities, and what it looks like in Fort Worth is really community, authenticity, engagement, and that's very exciting as a professional in that space. And second, partnerships. Out in the community, already getting to meet organizations like the Economic Development Partnership, the Chambers of Commerce, all of the community organizations that are working in this space. I'm so excited to get to work with them and connect with them about their vision for Fort Worth for the future. On a personal note, I will tell you I am not a stranger to Fort Worth. I met my husband here. He lived here for 10 years, and so we spent a lot of time in Fort Worth before we relocated to Houston, of which he spent the past 4 years telling me that Fort Worth was the best city in Texas, and that we needed to get back here as quickly as possible. So I'd hate to admit it, as any spouse would hate to admit it, but I believe he was right, and I am very glad to be here, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Welcome, Jess.
On to informal reports. 250109 is the proposed 2026 council meeting schedule and changes to the council rules of procedure. And we have City Secretary Jeanette Goodall and Dennis McElroy, Senior Assistant City Attorney, to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
I have a question.
Or Nettles?
Jeanette, if you can give us the major changes in our calendar for this 2026, and then I have some direct questions to ask you.
Sure. So the schedule is very similar to previous schedules in that we took into consideration no meeting following Monday holidays, spring break, July, all of those major events in the year. We added a new feature for day meetings to change the start time to 11 a.m. And to be preceded by a council work session at 9. There are 10 public comment meetings, which also will include an option for the city manager to include consent agenda items on the public comment meeting, so it will be similar to a limited council meeting. We have 21 council work sessions, 11 zoning meetings, and 9 day council meetings with 9 potential work sessions. And we also included 7 budget work sessions so that you can prepare for those for next year and have them on your schedule. So it's very similar. The big difference, of course, is the public comment meeting, adding the ability to take action on certain items for those. Typically, it would be consent agenda items that are real quick. And then the day council meeting, changing that time and adding a council work session. And the goal is really just to provide opportunities for us to help manage the length of the meetings, reduce the time that it takes for council to act on certain things so that hopefully we can move agenda items through the process a little quicker by having additional council action meetings.
Okay, and so when I'm looking at this schedule here, I know we discussed it previously. Currently, we actually meet 4 times a month on Tuesday. In this new calendar, it reveals to me that we'll only have 3 business meetings a month, except for possibly May and November. Is that correct?
That's correct, and sometimes it depends on what's going on in the month, if there's a holiday, et cetera. And so by adding the additional council work or council action meetings, we did kind of reduce the actual number of weeks that may have a meeting. Again, just to give you more opportunities to schedule additional meetings, including council committee meetings, et cetera.
Okay.
So the goal really is to try to figure out the best way to help you all manage your Tuesday commitments.
Right, and I'm looking on here. I think it was discussion of trying to move public comment from just a separate meeting to add to a business meeting. But I see we did that only for 1 day and not for 2 days. So we're going to move from public comment being twice a month to public comment only being once a month?
That's the way it's currently on the schedule. If council would like to add a public comment to the day meetings, all I need is direction that the council would like to do that.
Okay.
It's similar, the numbers, I know the numbers sound a little bit reduced, but like for 2025, I went back and looked. For 2025, even though we're not through the entire year, we had 15 public comment meetings on your schedule. We've canceled one of those so far and held a special called meeting. And 2 additional public comment meetings, we reduced the amount of time that speakers were allowed because you were going to lose quorum. So when you take that into consideration, that's 3 meetings out of the 15 that potentially you would not have had because of quorum issues.
Okay, so my concern is I'm fine with public comment being added to business meetings. I think it makes a little more efficient, and also it takes away our ability to lose quorum. I'm not comfortable with not having public comment on a day meeting, so I propose that we should add that, because if we don't, then we will lose the public comment to once a month. When we first started as elected officials in 2021, public comment was 4 days a week. We moved it from 4 to 2. Now we're going from 2 to 1. So that's my suggestion. Also, with the discussion as we talk about freedoms of speech and the right to talk about how we feel, we need to make sure we continue to be a city that is open to hearing the concerns of our residents. And my last issue I have, well, it's not an issue, but I just got a question on it. We're gonna move from 2 days of executive session to only 1 executive session a month. Is that also correct?
We can schedule an executive session as needed for the day meetings. I just didn't list them on there. We would probably call those as Leanne needed them or as council needed them to discuss items.
All right, those are my questions. I do propose that we add public comment to the day meeting.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Peoples?
I just want to say, I agree with Councilman Nettles. I think one of the things, nobody likes hearing themselves talked about, but it's one of the things we signed up for when we ran for office, is we absolutely need to hear from the public. So I'm against reducing the amount of public comments meeting. I think we ought to go back to as many as possible.
Any other questions or comments from council? Dennis, I might just ask for you to give some clarification on the recent state law that just took effect, if you don't mind mentioning that specifically, and the posting rules that we were also trying to work within. Thank you.
Pardon me. Yes, so with the change in state law that took effect on September 1st, we now have to post our agendas instead of 72 hours in advance of the start time. We have to post them in 3 full business days prior to the date of the meeting, which means we're now going to need to post on Wednesday for the following Tuesday, which presents logistical challenges. For example, today I've been going back and forth with Patricia on the contents of your packet for next week because we need to get that up for tomorrow. So that's the other challenge of additional meetings on the agenda that we're trying to balance with this shift from 4 to 3.
And in our discussions, it sounded like from CMO that adding that additional consent agenda at the very least could help mitigate some of that and give each of our ACMs more time to review M&Cs.
Yes, that was a concern. Right now, we have, with only 2 business meetings per month, you end up with twice a month, all of staff every Thursday, when the deadline hits, has to drop everything and get those ready so that they have them to the M&C Center in time to prepare for the following agenda. So the addition of a consent agenda on that public comment meeting on the first week, excuse me, will help hopefully smooth the number of items that have to be considered and have kind of balance things better.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah,
Councilmember Nettles?
Yeah, I don't have any concern about the consent adding onto the calendar. My only concern is just about the limitation of public comment.
Sure, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Dana, on to you.
The next IR 25-0110 is on the 2025 debt plan, the rating outcomes and bond pricing results, and we have our CFO, Reggie Zeno, available to answer any questions.
Questions for Reggie? No? Great work, Reggie, thank you.
Next is 25-0111. This is the August 2025 report on ETJ releases, and we have LaShondra Stringfellow with Development Services available.
Any questions for LaShondra? Keep rolling.
Okay. Next, 25-0112, proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance to restructure the Board of Adjustment. And again, LaShondra Stringfellow is available.
Yeah,
Councilmember Nettles has a few questions. And then Councilmember Peoples. Yeah.
LaShondra,
I think Councilmember Nettles, was going to go first, and then I'll call it.
sorry.
Thank you.
yeah, I was just wanted a brief, I know we mentioned this too, I just wanted a brief understanding of the restructure of the Board of Adjustments. I guess currently we have 2 appointees that will go to 1.
Yes, sir. So we are looking at, one of the proposals that we have put forward is to combine, basically, we would be combining the 2 boards into 1. So yes, that would mean that instead of having 22 members and you all having 2 appointees, we would go to a board of 11 members, and we would have 4. So each council person would have 1 appointee. We'd have 4 alternates, and then those 4 alternates would, my understanding, those would probably be at large.
Each councilman will have 1 appointee, and then it'll be 4 at large,
Yes, sir. Those would be the 4 alternates.
to make sure we continue to keep quorum.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Chris? Councilmember Peoples?
Chandra, I understand there was some pushback from the actual members on the board. Can you share some of that and what their reasoning was?
So some of the concerns from some of the board members, and there were some good reasonings. They were concerned that they wanted to have a little bit more input into how we were going to be doing that restructuring. That was one of the concerns. Another concern was that based upon the number of items that we see, that could have the board being there all day. And so one of the considerations that we did share with them and that, we're working with the city attorney's office on right now is we're going to be going through the code to reduce some of those items that need to come to them, because some of those we see quite frequently. For example, fence variances, fence special exceptions. Some of those they're approving with certain conditions, and so we're looking at the code to see where we could just simply put those conditions in the code, and in that instance, they'd be allowed under those certain conditions, and it wouldn't need to come through the BOA. So those were the major concerns from the board.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, LaShondra.
The last IR we have is 250113, proposed council-initiated zoning changes for properties located in the Rosemont neighborhood in Council Districts 9 and 11. And again, the Stringfellow is available for questions.
Hey,
Councilmember Beck.
Hello, LaShondra. Sorry about that. If you could just give us a very brief overview of what we're doing there. And I also, before you start, thank you so much to you and your staff for getting this done. It's been a long time in the making, and so I appreciate you so much, and I'm glad we're finally at the end.
Yes, council members. So it absolutely has been a long time in the making. And one thing I would like to share with you all is this is a really large undertaking because it involves 1,980 parcels. And then also in terms of the acreage, we're over 300 acres. And so some of the neighborhood, well, actually it's one large neighborhood, but of course, there are sub-neighborhoods within that one neighborhood. And some of the concerns was that the existing zoning would allow some uses that was really not consistent with what the neighborhood wanted to see. So we're looking at rezoning much of that property from B to A5. In addition to that, one thing that we wanted them to understand is that just rezoning to A5 would not alleviate some of their concerns with stealth dorms. And so we're also looking at conservation districts. So the only thing that's coming forward at this time is some of that A5 zoning, and we've also looked at some of the more intense commercial uses. We're putting CUPs on some of those commercial uses as well. And so after this goes forward, we will also be coming back to you all with a conservation district to basically get more of a form and character that's more consistent with what you see for the neighborhood in Rosemont. We have a consultant, and the consultant is actually working on that plan right now. So hopefully we'll be able to come forward to you all with the conservation district probably around January.
Quick question on the conservation district. After the consultant does that plan for Rosemont, is that something that we can replicate in other areas in and around TCU to help prevent the stealth dorm?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? If not, I believe that's the conclusion of our IRs. I'll move directly in any questions or changes regarding memberships on boards or commissions or anything on the M&C log coming up for September 30th. Okay, if not, our Trinity Metro biannual briefing. Richard Andreski, the CEO of Trinity Metro, will present. Thank you, Rich, for being here.
My pleasure, Mayor, and good to see Mayor and City Council. I was last in front of you in January, so time flies, and I thought now would be a great time to bring you up to date on all the good things happening at Trinity Metro. And if I could ask you to remember two things today from my presentation, the first being that our agenda is really the city's agenda. Trinity Metro doesn't go about creating projects and ideas and concepts for service without working with our community partners. That starts with City Hall, but it extends into our community neighborhoods. It goes into our business community. And so our agenda and the update today you hear is a reflection of that. The second idea I would love you to remember today is that we are delivering results. We are results-oriented. When I was in front of you in January, I outlined a number of priorities that we had going into the new year. I'm pleased to report progress in those areas. If you would indulge me for a minute, the last few times I've been in front of City Council, we had a different leadership team, and I think it's worth spending a minute or two on the new Trinity Metro leadership team. So I've been with you now 3 years as your leader of Trinity Metro. I'm joined by a really talented group of individuals, both from our community who've lived here much of their life, as well as bringing in new talent. Christine Black, Chief of Staff, has been in the business community here in Fort Worth for several decades, has experience in oil and gas, pharma, and manufacturing. We are fortunate to have Annette Landeros join the team, exceptional person. What you may not know about Annette is Annette has 12 years with the United States Department of Transportation. So a fantastic person that's helping us align strategy. We have Reed Lanham, who's new to the role of Chief Operating Officer, and I'm pleased to say for the first time in Trinity Metro's 41-year history, we have a true COO, a COO that helps all the modes of transportation under him. He's in the room. Reed, raise your hand. Okay. Greg Jordan out of City of Grapevine was a former CFO there, but the key thing to remember about Greg is the deep transit-oriented development experience. And the Grapevine story of transit-oriented development happened with Greg's leadership. Kelly Shields, our new Chief Administrative Officer, 14 years with Trinity Metro, very talented, helping us build out a project management function. Believe it or not, we don't have a capital pipeline as robust as maybe other organizations of our maturity, and so we're creating a project management pipeline under Kelly's leadership. You all may know Deetra Whitmore, our Vice President of Community Services and Community Engagement and Customer Service. Deetra has her pulse and has her ear to the ground here in the community, helping us align our priorities, as I said earlier. Tara Crawford, we brought Tara in from Jacksonville, Florida. So a very talented person, individual who's helping us build a service program for Trinity Metro that reflects the growing needs of our city. Very data-driven person, very passionate individual who is helping us deliver on those promises. And then just this week, or last week, Ted Zimmerman joined us from St. Louis, Missouri, and he was with the Bi-State Development Corporation, previous experience with the Gateway Arch, as well as the Walt Disney Company. Now, I have to tell you, the reason I gave you those short bios is because we are having lots of success in bringing really highly qualified people into our organization to help us propel us to that next level. A city of our caliber and of our size needs a first-rate transit system. I mentioned last time, these were unchecked boxes. I said we would come back to you with meeting our commitments. Mayor, thank you for your leadership on Urban Rail. Pleased to see that recommendation adopted. We relaunched and rebranded our Trinity Metro Bikes program this year. Trinity Metro Blue Line launched in June, more on that in a moment. Our strategic action plan is now in place for the next 5 years, and we're still working to close that funding gap on TexRail. Our board of directors yesterday, including represented by Michael Crane and Chris Nettles, adopted yesterday the FY26 budget. And that budget, I'm pleased to say, maintains fares and current services. That is not common right now throughout the country. Many transit systems are struggling to make ends meet. We too are being really efficient and hyper-focused on delivering value and making sure we're living within our means. The good news is that we are able to sustain current services with our current revenue. I'll call your attention to that sales tax bar, that yellow bar. A big part of our program is supported by the half-penny sales tax that we collect. Additionally, those federal capital grants are quite essential to our both day-to-day operations and our capital growth aspirations. In our race to 8 million, this is the year where we believe we will exceed our pre-COVID ridership levels. So 7 days left. If you haven't taken a ride this week, please do. I'm pleased to say that the growth of our support for our services, the interest in our services continues to gain momentum. And a lot of that is driven by our TexRail program. Every time in front of you, I talk about TexRail. And the reason I talk about TexRail is we are reaching new markets here in our city and in our county. I've shared with you before that 1 in 3 people who live here, reside here in Fort Worth, have used our rail system. So 1 in 3 on an annual basis are using either our Trinity Railway Express or they're using TexRail. That's a very significant number when we think about the reach and the impact of our transit system. And that ridership is on a rocket upward trajectory. This year, we expect to close the year with almost 900,000 rides on TexRail. And in the very near future, we expect to be serving over 1 million rides a year just on TexRail alone. We also, you're well aware of our rebranding and repackaging our bus program. The first 2 color-coded lines are delivering impressive results. We are up 30% on Orange Line ridership. So if you compare the pre-Orange Line ridership to post-Orange Line, we have seen sustained growth in ridership. It's important. It's a more attractive service. We're serving our community, our residents better through a better onboard experience. But we're also attracting visitors and folks that maybe wouldn't normally be on the transit system. We're seeing that success replicated with Blue Line. We delivered Blue Line in June, and in the first 8 weeks of service, we've seen a 49, almost a 50% increase in rides on the Blue Line service. So we're clearly tapping into something here in that when you deliver great service, when it's reliable, it's frequent, safe, you see the public respond. And the data tells the story, but so do photos, and I think this needs no explanation, but clearly there are times of day where our buses do, in fact, look like this. So I said our agenda is a reflection of the city's agenda and our community's agenda. And we help in so many ways in our community. We help with access to healthcare and education. We help with business attraction and retention. We help with talent attraction and retention. And literacy is one of those areas in which we think we can play a role. So I'm pleased to share an update on Storytime Train. If you haven't heard about Storytime Train, you're in for a treat. Storytime Train was the idea of Annette Lenderos and her team that came together with our operating department to look at what could we do to bring riders onto the system and also create an experience for our families. So I'm not going to explain anymore. I'm going to have you watch this short video. It's a 60-second video.
Excited to share about a new innovative campaign that we've launched to really introduce riders to transit and also help drive meaningful connection within our community. How we've done that is through Trinity Metro's Storytime Train. We invite families to join us on TexRail. When they board, they will meet their Storytime reader, often a well-known leader in the community, university presidents, elected officials, corporate CEOs, all have volunteered their time for Storytime Train. During their Storytime adventure, they get the opportunity to not only listen to train-related children's books, but also they learn about train safety and a little bit more about Trinity Metro. We're thrilled to support Fort Worth's goals of increasing reading capabilities in our community, but also ensuring that all of our first-time riders know how to use our GoPass app and feel a lot less intimidated by using their local transit system. This has been a win-win throughout the community, and we're so excited by the response.
Now, bear with me. Not sure why it's doing that. It's a little temperamental. So we were thank you. We were in Boston for a conference last week. And this Storytime Train made national headlines. So Annette was on stage twice in front of an audience of thousands. Trinity Metro and Fort Worth were well represented. And so what we're hearing from other agencies around the country right now is how can they replicate what Trinity Metro is doing here in Fort Worth. We're really proud of that. So how do we augment those partnerships? Another way we're looking at is with Dr. Karen Molinar is to work with the Fort Worth ISD to increase access to transit for high schoolers. Now you might ask, well, what's the connection to education? Well, if you're a high school student and you want to participate in after-school activities, you have to worry about catching that bus home. And that bus ride home may actually get in the way of participating in extracurricular activities. So we have come together with Fort Worth ISD and next week intend to sign an agreement that would allow students in our community to get access to transportation, public transportation. So if you're participating in an after-school club, you'll now have the ability to do that and then get home. For many students, that will be really a game changer for them. So there's so many reasons and so many ways we're really showing up in our community. I'll pivot now to economic development. We are in the process of recruiting for a new economic development director. I'm pleased to say that our city manager, Jay Chapa, and Robert Allen have been incredibly helpful in this conversation, reached out early on when I was contemplating creating a position, and they were very helpful. And our intent here is to really work hand in hand with the city. We have lots of assets, transit assets, rail stations, that right now are parking lots, and we think we can do a whole lot more in those areas. And we all know what's taking place in the near south side, for example, and our Texas A&M campus that's emerging downtown. And I think now is the time to act and create some energy around our rail stations. So what's ahead? 2025 and 2026 are going to be a very busy time for Trinity Metro. We are in the process of selecting or soliciting for a new consultant to assist us with our urban rail plan. That's going to be done in close coordination with the city. And Jessica, thank you for all your support on that. We are also getting ready to serve World Cup. I'll defer any comments on that because I will have a presentation shortly. We're in the midst of an on-demand study to look at the evolution of our on-demand programs, and we're finalizing our funding plan for TexRail to the medical district. I want to thank the city again for all the support that you've shown us in that area, including your commitment to help us fund and close the remaining gap on that project. Okay, now where do we go from here? So I'll wrap up by saying that we have done a lot of work in the near term to reposition Trinity Metro. I think we're finding success. I hope you agree with that. But there's a whole lot more that can and should be done for a city growing as quickly as ours. And if we look at sort of the challenges that our community faces, there are many. One of them is traffic and congestion. When we've done polling, we've seen that residents are really just top of mind is the congestion on our roadways. So we are embarking on a multi-year program here to define the future of our agency, and it starts with Trinity Metro Now. Actually starts with Trinity Metro Promise, which is that we want to be safe, we want to show up as a safe, simple, and innovative agency, and I think you see that reflected in our new services. You know, our Now program is really the 5-year horizon. So there are 5 primary goals that we have. One is to complete our color-coded bus network, break ground on the TexRail extension, launch the Alliance Express bus service. We have not forgotten about that. I can share more. Complete our urban rail plan, and advance transit-oriented development. We're also looking at the next 25 years. You're going to be hearing more. We will be in the community, lots of public engagement opportunity, but defining the next generation of transit for our city. So I introduced Ted, and we were walking up to City Hall, looking up at this beautiful building and thinking how aspirational this building is in terms of where we want to go as a city. And we think of ourselves in that same way. How do we want to show up? What does the future of transit look like? And we don't have to rely on the old ways of doing business because we're in many ways creating a system in many ways from scratch. So I'll wrap up by saying, remind you that we are delivering, we are meeting our commitments, but we couldn't do it without your support and encouragement. I can't tell you how much it means when each of you show up between our board members, Councilman Michael Crane, Councilman Chris Nettles, but also each of you when we have events and you're in our communities advocating and promoting for us, that goes a long way. And I want to thank you for that. And I'll wrap up with our mission statement, which is really about connecting people to life. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rich. Great presentation. Council members, any questions or comments? Councilmember Crane?
Hey, Rich, thank you. Again, it's an honor to serve on the board with you and with the team, and I've seen the team change for the better, and the ridership going up, and the investments that you're making. So you are doing the right things as we continue to have this conversation about what public transportation looks like for Fort Worth, and it may not look like other cities and what other cities do, and I think that's okay. But I just want to say thank you for leadership in the realm and working together with all of us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. Rich, thanks for the presentation. Just one specific question. this is something you and I had talked about before, the replacement of older bus shelters or the building of new bus shelters where there were none to begin with. Who is the point of contact for that?
So it depends on whether it's an implementation question or a planning and resource question. You can always reach out to me directly.
Okay.
What I would say is that we were the beneficiary of a $1 million grant that we're working with the city on to support the city's, I think you all know this, the city is supporting us in laying down the concrete and the curb cuts that are necessary for the bus stops. And so I'd be happy to follow up with you on specifics.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, callers. Anybody else? Councilmember Beck?
Yeah, just one quick question. Can you give me an update on where we are on the funding for the extension of TexRail and how much we have left to try to turn under rocks to find?
Yes, we're turning over every rock, aren't we? Thank you for the question. So we have 143. So let me back up. It's a $295 million TexRail program. $65 million is for the new trains that will support that service. That $65 million is fully funded through NCT COG. We have a $10 million project to expand the rail yard to support that fleet. That is currently unfunded. So our rail yard expansion to support the additional trains is not yet funded. And then we have another $220 million project to actually build the tracks and the station into the medical district. So between the rail yard, the $10 million unfunded with the rail yard, there's about another roughly $5 to $7 million currently that we're looking for. So a total of about 15 to 17 million on a total program of 295 million. We're doing everything we can to bring new revenue in to close that gap. A couple of examples, we have excess property in a few locations that we're going to be selling, and we're working very closely with the two cities, not Fort Worth, to sell those properties. That could bring in another $5 to $10 million, depending on how much we get for those properties. So I think we're definitely nipping at the problem. Top of mind for me is the $143 million that the federal government has pledged to this project. It's essential that we keep those funds in place and get this project going next year. I really don't ever want to. I think you would all agree. We don't ever want to be in a situation where we're being asked why aren't the funds being spent.
How much of those funds have been city funds?
Currently, we're working with City Manager Jay Chapa on the timing. I believe there's a commitment of about $7.5 million currently from the city. That's not in the current fiscal year, but the good news is that this TexRail program is a 4 fiscal year program. So it'll go all the way out to fiscal 29, if I'm not mistaken.
I would just ask that you keep the city funding top of mind, particularly as we've already set our budget for this year, but as we reconcile this time next year, our couple months, we start reconciling this year's budget. I'd ask the city to look at anything this year, how we used our interest for different projects around the city. I'd like us to explore additional funding because the project is only going to go up and it's so incredibly needed. The cost of construction is only going to go up, and the medical district is really screaming for this project to be underway. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Yes, Councilmember Hall.
So, Rich, as the resident educator here, I'm very excited to hear about the partnership with Fort Worth ISD. How soon can we anticipate that launch to allow students to ride Trinity's free of charge? Like, when do we anticipate that launch?
Yes, October is the hope. As soon as we sign the MOU with the school district, the one thing we're working on is the way the student will be able to tap on, tap off. Mm-hmm. So there's a technical question that we're working through, but other than that, we're ready to go.
And I guess the question is, I'm sure y'all have investigated this. How much do you anticipate this will increase ridership?
I'll have to get back to you on the forecast. Our goal in this pilot, I should have said it's a pilot this year, is to understand the opportunity, learn from students on how it works for them, to see what we can do to make that program even better. So it is a pilot year. We're going to collect data. We're going to understand who's using it, who's not using it, understand why they might not be using the service, and then come back with some changes next year.
Well, I will encourage you as y'all kick off your pilot to make sure that you get as much education as you possibly can about the opportunity. So often, I would say, in my experience, parents and students don't take advantage of resources just because they don't know that the opportunity is there. And I think this is going to be a great resource to our families in Fort Worth. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Council Member.
Any other questions, Council? Great work, Rich. We appreciate you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Council, our next presentation is World Cup 2026 Planning Overview, and I believe Deanna Giordano is going to kick things off.
Allow me to do a short introduction. It's my pleasure to introduce the next presentation on the 2026 World Cup overview and planning activities and other notable events that will be occurring in Fort Worth in 2026, led by our partners at Visit Fort Worth. This year represents a historic opportunity to showcase Fort Worth with a global spotlight. We know the soccer world uniquely inspires loyal fans, and so we expect a lot of fan engagement and fanfare happening here in the city that will provide an economic and tourism boost for our city. At the same time, we remain committed to making sure that our residents receive core services, so it's kind of finding that balance between international guests and then our local residents and ensuring that we have a very careful and strategic and collaborative planning methodology ahead of us. It's a true team approach, and so some of the partners that are with us today are Sundance Square, Stockyards, Downtown Fort Worth, Inc., Near Southside, Trinity Metro, Texas Christian University, TCU, and Cowtown Coliseum. So together with these partners, we are playing a vital role in making sure that we can position the city of Fort Worth for success during this once-in-a-generation event. And so with that, here to provide more details is Visit Fort Worth's Chief Operating Officer, Mitch Witten, followed by Sunny Saxton and Mike Crum.
Thank you, Deanna. It's exciting to talk to you today about 2026 because even before we get to World Cup, we've got a blockbuster year ahead to talk to you about. At Visit Fort Worth, you know we're the parent organization for the Fort Worth Film Commission, the Here Fort Worth Music Office, the Sports Commission, and of course the world's only twice daily cattle drive. And we're proud to be represented also by Council Members Beck and Council Member Flores. Thank you for serving on our board. Our CEO, Bob Jameson, is away, but we have some exciting things to report. Before we even get to World Cup, Visit Fort Worth will welcome almost 300,000 people in the first half of next year because of the sports and conventions we have coming. A couple of the sports events that are really made possible by our incredible team and our incredible partnership with Dickies Arena. NCAA Women's Basketball, Sweet 16 and Elite 8 in March. And you may not know, let's not forget the horses. 2026 is the year of the horse. And Dickies Arena will host, in partnership with the city and Visit Fort Worth, the FEI World Cup Premier International Equestrian event in April. So again, more opportunities for international and to welcome the world. Then also in conventions, there are too many to mention specifically. Here are a list of some of those coming, a couple to point out. The International Association of Chiefs of Police, Texas Municipal League, and over the July 4th time, Texas FFA with more than 16,000 blue corduroy jackets all over the city over the July 4th weekend, right in the middle of World Cup. So let's talk about World Cup. We've had a lot of questions, and we thought it was time to give you an update on what we know, and because it is a once-in-a-generation event to really showcase the city and showcase the engaged businesses here and abroad. Today, we are launching a new website, fortworth.com/soccer2026. Now, tourism starts with residents, so this website is not only important for our visitors, but will give residents a lot of the information that we are presenting today to you. Just some of the basics. The World Cup itself will run from June 11th through July 19th. Our region will host more games than any other region in North America. That's 9 matches in Arlington, and if you combine that with the 8 games in Houston, that's 17 total in Texas. And we know that Fort Worth is the biggest draw in Texas. So what is our plan? We will make sure visitors know that our city is the place to be. We will invite media to explore and cover all the wonderful things there are to discover in Fort Worth. In fact, voters, among others, have already named Fort Worth as one of the top cities to visit in 2026, with more announcements to come. Our team was just in New York last week, pitching Fort Worth, and we have some exciting updates to come for you in the months ahead. Another important message is that Fort Worth is open for business. We have special spaces for corporate brands and activations and are already engaged with them to bring them to Fort Worth, and as well as the regional effort. And finally, on our goals, we have an opportunity to leave a legacy, not only to up our game even more than ever before in welcoming the world, but also to inspire youth at home. In the May 2026 bond election, voters may have the opportunity to invest even more in our athletic facilities right here at home, inspired by, right in the middle on the eve of World Cup. In some ways, the World Cup has already begun, and we will be busy with fulfilling our plan and working with you over the next year through July, following these milestone dates. And again, a lot of this can be found online, but just to say, the activity is well underway, and we know that the North Texas Organizing Committee has been at this for many years, and so this is just the latest addition to that plan. This may be the most important slide of all. As Jessica alluded to earlier, collaboration is our superpower. And Deanna, thank you for mentioning our partners who are here, because they are really the key, because the quality of their investment and the quality the city has invested in these districts and facilities means we are show ready more than ever before. Think about it. We have Sundance Square in the heart of our downtown, the cleanest, safest downtown in America. The Stockyards, which will have even more special programming, rodeos, and more to be announced. The near south side, the hub of neighborhood bars where people already gather to watch soccer. And I really want to highlight TCU. TCU is a potential base camp, one of 6 vying to host a team this next year. TCU was recently named by Princeton Review for 2026 top 5 in the country for athletic facilities, best run universities, and most beautiful campuses. That is a huge competitive advantage for us going into World Cup. Just to build on that a little bit more, TCU has the potential to host a base camp. What that means is a country may select TCU, and we think we have one of the best facilities in the country, and that will bring its fans and corporate partners and others and media attention to Fort Worth when that happens, and we will find out next year. The International Broadcast Center, that is going to be based in Dallas at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center. Think about it. All the media for the World Cup in North America will be based just next door in Dallas. It's very exciting. Fort Worth is not only the biggest tourism destination in Texas, it's also a big part of the DFW story. And today we're joined also by my friend Noelle Laveau. Noelle, thanks for being here. She is the Chief Marketing Officer for the North Texas FIFA World Cup Organizing Committee. And I say that because I want to show you a brief video about how we're being featured as part of the whole pitch for DFW with this brief video. And now Sunny and Mike are going to come up and talk about our partnership we have with the city in planning for this event.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilor. Sunny Saxton, Director of Emergency Management and Communications. I'm going to get to my colleague in just a minute. He's been a great leader as we kick this off, planning for City of Fort Worth. By the way, I love that video. There's a lot of Fort Worth in that video, so I love that. I did want to thank, though, Mitch for all of his work and Visit Fort Worth. They partnered us throughout this process that we started this planning effort. And as you've already heard, we've got 9 games that are coming up in this 4-week period. While the matches themselves will be hosted in Arlington, the impact, of course, will be felt throughout the region, including here in Fort Worth. This is a regional moment that we know requires a citywide effort. So as we plan, we are keeping 3 key perspectives in mind. Deanna covered these briefly. First is the athletes and visitors. We're really thinking about how they're coming here to play and watch world-class soccer. Secondly, our residents, local businesses, tourism partners, neighborhood districts. We're excited to be part of the moment, and we know that they want to come and bring in community events, visitor engagement, economic opportunities. And then third, we want to keep in mind our members of our community who may not be directly involved but want to be sure that the essential services that they depend upon remain uninterrupted throughout the event. So I'm thinking about things like transportation, public safety, and day-to-day operations that need to continue to run smoothly. So over the past year, many of our city employees have been deeply engaged in regional planning teams working behind the scenes to ensure Fort Worth is ready. For example, we've had team members directly involved with the North Texas FIFA World Organizing Committees and their work groups. One example is our Sustainability Committee with staff from our Environmental Services team. They've been participating in those conversations. You've seen initiatives like the Lake Arlington cleanup that happened this past June come out of that planning. Also beyond that, our city is represented in several other key working groups, including transportation, aviation, health and medical, even things like unsheltered populations. Really too many for me to mention today. But I do want to highlight the Intelligence and Fusion Center work group, because we all know we need information. That's a critical piece of our public safety planning efforts. I'll talk about in just a second. But I'm proud that one of our city employees is leading that group for the region, so that just shows you how we're out front. And of course, there's many more examples. So really for us, this is training camp beginning, formation of our key city work groups. We're taking a whole of organization approach to this to ensure that we're aligned and we're coordinated and ready to deliver. Most recently, we organized and kicked off 5 internal city work groups. Each were focused on a key area of planning and delivery. These work groups are made up of representatives from the key departments and are actively collaborating with external stakeholders and internal. Each work group has a clear focus, from the operations to mobility and communications. In just a moment, I'll hand things over to my colleague, Director of Public Events, who will walk you through the hospitality work group. But I do just want to quickly mention some of the work engaged with these other ones. So, for instance, Communications and Engagement work group is focused on ensuring that public information is clear, timely, and accessible. They're coordinating messaging with our regional partners, supporting welcoming efforts, and ensuring the city-wide outreach is equitable and effective. We're thinking about things like branding, also legacy efforts, such as youth sports, small business engagement, and neighborhood pride. Our beautification work group is focused on making sure the city looks and feels its very best, both for our residents and for the thousands of visitors we expect. Their work includes enhancing public spaces like key corridors, plazas, gateways, also streetscape improvements, seasonal plantings, and citywide cleanliness. Visual branding is going to be consistent and integrated throughout the city, and we're looking forward to Visit Fort Worth and the others to help us with that. Our safety and security work group is responsible for ensuring we have the right emergency protocols in place and that they're aligned with regional, state, and federal partners. We are so fortunate to have our police and fire departments actively involved, along with our hospitals and interagency coordination. So we're thinking about crowd management, access controls, and things like that. And finally, before I hand it off for hospitality, I would mention the infrastructure work group, which is really our making sure our city's foundational systems are ready for the increased activity. So that includes transportation, mobility planning, road closures, utility coordination, and et cetera. So with that, I'll introduce Mike to talk a little bit more for us.
Mayor and Council, good afternoon. I'm Michael Crum, Director of the Public Events Department. I'd like to start this afternoon by putting this into some context. If you think about the size of the event that we're about to play a part in hosting, this is larger than a men's or women's Final Four. It is larger than a political convention. It is larger than a Super Bowl. It is arguably larger than the Olympics. The World Cup is the most watched event in the world. So, and the world's eyes are going to be on the Metroplex during June and July of this coming summer. So we have to be ready to play our part, and one of the cornerstones of our effort to do that is our hospitality committee. If you think about it, we've been here before. Some of you will remember that we took the National Finals Rodeo, the Super Bowl of rodeo, on 100 days' notice. While the competition was over in Arlington, everything else was in Fort Worth. So we had to plan for the Easter Sunday of rodeo on 100 days' notice. We have a little bit longer runway, but the mission is the same. We have now almost a year to plan for the Easter Sunday of sports events. And so that's what we have to do. We don't know at this point if, for example, TCU would be hosting France, one of the iconic teams in World Cup, or if we'd be hosting Liechtenstein. Now, we don't have anything against Liechtenstein. I'm sure they're good people and whatnot, but one way or the other, we got to be ready, right? And so the cornerstone of that is our hospitality committee. And what we're doing, if you kind of cut to the chase, is that we are working with our private sector partners in the hospitality industry to create a world-class customer experience for our visitors to Fort Worth in June and July of next year. And remember, our visitors are not just here for soccer, football. We also are running a full schedule of our usual visitor events. You'll walk on the campus at the Will Rogers Memorial Center and you will have no idea what's happening over in Arlington because we're blowing and going with our usual run of equestrian events. At the Convention Center, we have a handful of Texas-based, Southwestern regional-based, and nationally-based conventions coming into the market. We have to be ready for all of those visitors, right? And so that is our mission. The Hospitality Committee internally, the work group as we call it, is made up of representatives of public events, communications and public engagement, code compliance, neighborhood services, parks and recreation, transportation and public works, environmental services, and the library. And we will be joined at the hip with my friend Mitch and his team at Visit Fort Worth and our partners in the hospitality industry to plan for the event. So the format of that planning is very similar to what we experienced 5 years ago. We will start meeting on a regular basis, understand what's going to be happening in our community and when it's going to be happening, how many visitors we anticipate in the market, and then we will be making plans accordingly. A great example of that is during NFR, we had to change the trash collection schedule in the stockyards because of all of the visitors that were driving through that part of the city at the time. I think it was 40 to 50,000 a day over NFR weekend. So we make those plans, we collaborate with our other partners both internally and externally, and we get ready to host the world next summer. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Beck?
Yeah, so I recently saw on the news where our folks to the east were really intentional about creating a formalized committee specific to their nightlife. And so I'm not suggesting that we need to have something as formalized, but I think it signals a real focus for that city to the east. on making sure they're driving people out to get those, to get them into our entertainment districts. And with Fort Worth having the stockyards downtown and near Southside and West 7th with 4 entertainment districts, I'd like to know what we're doing to try to drive people into our city to see the museums, to see if we're being that formal.
Yeah, and not that we would ever mimic what the city, who should not be named, is doing. But that is, I think Mitch described to you the beginnings of that, where we're bringing all of our destinations in the city together so that they can be prepared for the promotional plan that is going to be led, not solely addressed, but led by the Visit Fort Worth team. And I think that is the beginnings of that type of work.
And it's in the summer, correct?
June and July.
In July, okay. I will just share a bit of information, which I don't know that is particularly, it's not going to be the same situation because it's not in the winter, but I worked at the Council of Governments during our Super Bowl, and at the time, Michael Morris had snow plows brought in from other parts of the country, and we all thought he was off his rocker for doing that because when does it ever snow or ice in DFW, and it did Super Bowl weekend. So my charge to you, we don't have to worry about that in June or July, thank God. If we do, we've got bigger problems on our hands. But the charge to you is those things that seem far, out of reach, that just couldn't happen to us. Murphy's Law, they typically can and do happen. So we might not need snow plows, but those one-off incidents, I appreciate the intentionalness of looking at those.
Councilmember Beck, if I could just add, I think with our tourism partners, I think that's what Fort Worth does best, is focus on not only attracting people here, but making sure they understand the different parts of the city. We just launched a thing called the Attractions Council, where we've asked all the venues and entertainment partners to come together to share best practices. How are people buying tickets? What are they eating? Where are they going? And how are they getting there? So that has been a real learning experience for us and has been a big benefit to our partners. So, yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Flores and Councilmember Peoples.
Since you're up there, Mitch, maybe you can field this question, or Sonny or Michael. With the World Cup, I think we all agree, is a wonderful opportunity for our local businesses here in Fort Worth, as well as to our neighboring cities, to take advantage, of all the visitation we're going to be getting and attention. So many of us on council may get questions from, our small businesses in our districts. Where should we direct them to connect so that they can actively participate and, put themselves in the best position to do so?
As you've heard Bob Jameson say many times, our job is to shine a light on the private sector and to make sure we connect people with local businesses and entrepreneurs. So at the new website I just mentioned, fortworth.com/soccer2026, there are links to connect with Visit Fort Worth for ongoing business, as well as the North Texas Organizing Committee's Business Connect program. So they can register there, as well as connect with Visit Fort Worth. We will also have basically a hotline for business that can connect with us, so we can make sure we're getting them to the right place. We're also working with, and again, this is just the first step, and there are more to come. We're working with the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce on programs to make sure we connect through them with their members as well.
And then what collaborations with transit entities and DFW Airport will there be for the World Cup? I know these are ongoing discussions. They're certainly not, fully fleshed out yet, but generally, can you talk to that? And, I'm also thinking wayfinding signs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I can't speak to all the regional transportation connections yet, but I would say that what Rich presented on Trinity Metro with the orange and blue lines, one connecting, about a third of our hotels are located downtown, so that blue line is essential. And the orange line connects the two busiest visitor districts in the city. Really helps in that plus TexRail. We wouldn't be ready for World Cup without it. And so Rich and his team have done a phenomenal job getting us ready. And then DFW Airport is busy at work with, of course, their construction and letting people know what's going on during World Cup next year. So we're excited about not only the communication, but the connectivity, because we will be one of the most connected cities in the world for World Cup.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peoples.
Mike, did you have one?
So I think sometimes that when we talk about tourism, we forget the east side of Fort Worth. We really do. And so there's a couple of questions I wanted to ask. One, you talked about the Lake Arlington cleanup in June, so I'd like to know more about that. But also, in District 5, we have the luxury of going northeast toward the airport. And so I would really like to kind of know what plans we have, because we can do some indoctrination there to get people to Fort Worth.
I think everybody already covered it. Mainly, we were just going to say we're still planning, and so more to come. We'll engage directly with the council coming up. So, yeah,
But Councilmember Peoples, to your question, I remember a couple of years ago when our contract was up for renewal, we some new friends from the east side said they really weren't represented on our map, and so we have gone through a process to add more to our map. Okay. I was excited that Franklin Moss just opened a new place in the Hanley area with his exciting new venue, and so he was telling me about that. So we are trying to keep up with the growth, and if anybody, council members, have something we need to add, we are open and ready to update all our information.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council?
I have just a few last comments, Mayor, real quick. Just a lot of exciting stories to tell. This is the official poster for FIFA World Cup 26 Dallas. It was produced by Fort Worth artist Matt Cliff, who's done a lot of artwork for Leon Bridges, so we're excited about that story. But I do have an announcement today, in working with Noelle and her team and our team, that a signature event is going to take place this year leading up to World Cup, and that is on December the 5th. There will be a draw party, a watch party for the national or international event in DC. So we will be the DFW regional watch party for those interested in being a part of the excitement with celebrities and music and activations at Billy Bob's from 11 to 2 on December the 5th. More details to come, but this is really new information, and we were excited that we were able to announce this today, a real regional focus on Fort Worth that day. But let me leave you with this. Our promise to you, back to Councilmember Beck's point, is that we will make sure our visitors know about Fort Worth. From our Texas-sized art collections in the Cultural District to the zoo and other unexpected treasures throughout the city to the modern west of the stockyards. Working with the city, that's the brand promise that our team will deliver for our visitors and our residents. It's the Texas you want. So thank you for your time and attention today. Thank you.
Excellent job, Mitch. Thank you,
Thank you.
for all your partners here today. Thank you, thank you. Our next presentation is on Economic Development Program Agreement with Alcon, and Kelly Baggett is going to lead us through.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Kelly Baggett, Economic Development Coordinator. The purpose of this presentation is to discuss a proposed Economic Development Program Agreement to support the expansion plans for Alcon Research under consideration in Fort Worth. Now, practically everybody knows Alcon here, and just to give a little color and background, in 2019, the eye care company separated from Novartis and became a public company, a change that reshaped a number of its business units. Since then, shifts in market conditions and a push for greater operational efficiency have prompted Alcon to reevaluate where some of those units are located. Now, an independent company through Alcon Research, the company is conducting a site search for two product lines. One is for viscoelastic surgical devices, currently manufactured in Belgium. The other is unit dose pharmaceutical products produced in France. Now, this search is global, with both domestic and international sites competing for this investment as finalists. This project will unfold with two developments on the existing Alcon campus at 6201 South Freeway. At full operation, the project is expected to deliver a minimum of $186 million capital investment, with the bulk of investment being in business personal property for both product lines. In terms of specific commitments broken out, here's what the company is committed to deliver. For product line one, that's a viscoelastic surgical device currently in Belgium. We're looking at a minimum of $25 million in real property improvements by 2028, plus $60 million in BPP right after in early 2029. For product line two, the unit dose pharma products now made in France, the commitment is a minimum of $43 million real property improvements by 2028, another $58 million in BPP by early 2029. For product line three, the unit dose pharma products now made in France, the commitment is a minimum of $43 million real property improvements by 2028, another $50 million, $58 million in BPP by early 2029. For product line four, the unit dose pharma products now made in France, the commitment is a minimum of $43 million real property improvements by 2028, another $50 million, $58 million in BPP by early 2029. So altogether, that's 241 new full-time jobs here in Fort Worth with an average annual salary of about $75,000. And just to put that in perspective, that will result in about a 15% increase in headcount. So this is a significant expansion. Now, let me walk you through how the proposed incentives are structured. There is a 7-year EDPA 380 agreement capped at $6 million total. If Alcon brings over product line 1 from Belgium, that qualifies for a 50% grant on real property and BPP M&O. If they bring product line 2 from France, that one qualifies for a 60% grant. Now, if both lines are delivered here, then each one steps up to a 70% grant rate. And just to be clear, the 2 product lines are independent. They aren't contingent on each other. That is to say, we would be incredibly happy if either line came into Fort Worth. So mostly to say we want both of them. And this incentive is structured to deliver that. As with all our agreements, it's performance-based. If the company misses the minimum investment, the deal defaults. And of course, there are additional requirements and penalties built in depending on negotiations. To sum everything up, here's a quick recap of the major deal points on the left side. On the right side, for the public, the proposed incentives total about $4.2 million lifetime value, or roughly $3.4 million in today's dollars. That amounts to about a 1.8% participation rate from the city. We're also looking at a 55-to-1 private-public ratio, which, as y'all know, is a strong return. Turning to the projected city tax revenues, as far as the total net new taxes or gross, we are estimating approximately $3.5 million over the term, and that equates to about $2.8 million in today's dollars. After accounting for the incentives that were provided, once the term ends, the city will receive net new taxes. As a result, staff is recommending the city enter a 7-year EDPA agreement on up to 70% of the incremental value of real and business personal property taxes for the project with formal approval to Mayor and Council on September 30th. And with that, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Thanks, Kelly, and you and your team. We appreciate you. Next update is the capital project coordination across departments and information on the cast iron pipe placement program. And it looks like Lauren Prier and Chris Harder are both going to conduct this presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to start this presentation off. And as far as the agenda, what we'll do is we'll talk about how both TPW and Water initiate projects, plan projects, how we coordinate on projects, how we fund projects, and then I'm going to give a presentation related to cast iron program, just kind of an update. And then the last bullet point there is why would we cut new pavement? So I'll talk about some scenarios there. So as far as how the Water Department initiates projects, we have risk models for all of our horizontal pipelines. When you look at the water risk model, it includes things like break history, maintenance records, age of material, the type of material. Cast iron obviously is a high priority. Capacity issues, those could be not only master plan initiated, but also looking at things like reliability and redundancy. Dead-end lines, we have to report our flushing to TCEQ every year related to dead-end line flushing. Necessary relocations, here I'm thinking about things like TxDOT projects or even the Central City, where we've done a lot of utility relocations. The Sanitary Sewer Overflow Initiative is a agreement that we have with TCEQ that obligates us to perform large diameter sewer replacement as well as replace at least 10 miles of high-risk sewer pipe per year. So we share these projects with TPW in order to coordinate for combined projects.
So TPW develops projects based on a mix of data and community input. Factors include pavement condition index. If the type of water line is PVC, generally those projects will be performed in our maintenance program. If it is cast iron, then those will go into either the 50/50 or bond program. We also look at the curb and gutter condition. So if you have good curb and gutter can be a very expensive part of the project. So if we do have good curb and gutter, we're usually looking at the maintenance program or the 50/50 program to rehabilitate that pavement. If our curb and gutter is failed, then that is generally only considered in the bond program to rehabilitate that street. So in summary, all bond projects have cast iron and curb and gutter in their projects. So I'd also like you to refer to the June 6th budget work session presentation for additional details on how Public Works prioritizes our projects. And like Water Department, we also regularly share our list of proposed projects with not just Water Department, but Development Services and Parks as well. So for TPW-initiated projects, in our maintenance program projects, our focus is 100% pavement preservation or rehabilitation. So there's minimal curb and gutter, driveways, or sidewalk work in the maintenance program projects. So for our bond program project limits, the project scopes of work will be 100% pavement reconstruction, curb, gutter, driveways, and sidewalks, as well as the Water Department will 100% fund their water and sewer improvement. So what we like to say is bond program projects are back of sidewalk to back of sidewalk, everything brand new. We are completely recapitalizing that asset. So outside of the bond program project limits, if Water Department needs to continue their work beyond our street recapitalization, they will 100% fund the water, sewer, as well as street rehabilitation, but will not do the curb, gutter, driveways, and sidewalks. So during our collaboration and planning, departments maintain a shared project list for transparency and alignment. We also do a design review together at 30, 60, and 90% milestones. So the early conflict resolution and design alignment allows us to reduce downstream conflicts. The tools we use are a cross-departmental coordination checklist for consistent scope clarity. Projects are also mapped in GIS, and scopes are consolidated when our priorities align to maximize our resources. So in order to streamline delivery, we'll utilize, where we have overlap, we'll utilize one engineering agreement and one construction contract to simplify procurement and accelerate our delivery.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our cast iron pipe program. You all have probably seen the slides many times related to that we have 18% of our inventory resulting in 85% of our breaks. So obviously the break rate for cast iron pipe is significantly higher than any other pipe material. Of the 730 miles of cast iron pipe that we have in our inventory, 672 miles are small diameter, which means less than 16-inch pipe diameter, and about 58 miles are large diameter. And we're especially concerned about the large diameter cast iron pipe. So we have 18 projects that are in design or construction right now related to large diameter cast iron pipe replacement. I will tell you that when you have one in your district, you will probably know about it because it is significant impact on the public. So right now we have 2 in construction. One is on Westridge in Council District 3. One is in downtown in Council District 9. But I will tell you that we have one planned in every district except for Council District 4 and Council District 10. So one of the things that I think is really positive is that by the end of 2030, with the completion of these 18 projects, when you look at the pipe diameter size and you look at the inventory reduction, you can see that for 20-inch and above, we should have that inventory cut down by at least 50%. So why is that important? I think you can go back and look at that break that we had on Collier back in 2023 that shows what the impact of a transmission main rupture is. So you think about it, those transmission mains are what moves water from our pumping facilities to our storage tanks. So when you have a break there, it potentially is going to drain your storage tank and set you up for a boil water notice. So it most definitely is a system reliability issue. So you may not know this, but we have about 130 projects that are in design in the water department right now. As far as the small diameter pipe replacement, we have about 180 miles in design, which would mean that we would be reducing that inventory significantly as well. So if you look at the map of all the cast iron pipe, the majority of it is inside the loop.
Councilmember Peoples.
Can you go back to the large diameter? There's that large, see on Lancaster, it looks like it goes from downtown and District 8 all the way through 11 and down to 5. Can you tell me about that project and when you anticipate we'll get that done? Because that looks like it would impact multiple councils, districts.
Yeah, that project just got initiated probably, I think, maybe 2 months ago, and we have it split between two engineering agreements, and it not only includes Vickery, but also Lancaster.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a large project. Let's see here. So, yeah, I think the idea is that I want to convey that this is a huge priority of the utility. It's extremely expensive. So those 18 projects that I mentioned on the cast iron transmission main projects, there's about $400 million worth of a cost associated with that. So every year, going back to 2021, we've been increasing our rehab and replacement budget. But as far as the transmission main projects, those are not something that we're going to be entirely cash funding. So we will be anticipating using bond funds to replace a lot of those transmission mains. So this is just for your information. It kind of shows the inventory of cast iron pipe by council district. I mentioned that we don't have any transmission mains in Council District 4 and Council District 10, but you can see that Council District 11, I think, has the highest percentage of cast iron pipe of all the districts. But you can see a lot of them have significant amounts. So as far as the cast iron program, you may recall back in 2021, we had a boil water notice on the north side that was related to the Eagle Mountain plant freezing up. And that was because of the power outages that we had, extended power outages. 2 days later, you may recall that we had to issue a boil water notice to the west side. And that had nothing to do with power, that had to do with all of the cast iron pipes that broke. So we had, over a 10-day period, we had 730 main breaks. So to put that in perspective, this year has been the best year ever, and I don't even want to say this, but maybe I shouldn't, but we are sitting on 400 main breaks after 267 days.
Yeah.
400 main breaks over 267 days. In 10 days, we did 730 main breaks. So it just shows you how weather dependent our cast iron performance is. And even though we're doing well right now, you can have a very, very cold winter that will trigger main breaks, and you can have a very, very hot summer where the ground expands and contracts, puts pressure on those pipes, and they'll rupture. So much of our performance of our cast iron pipe is weather related, and you think about it, that's just a huge risk for our utility to be under, is that our performance is going to be completely weather related. So the last bullet is, why would we cut new pavement? I can tell you that we certainly do not want to cut new pavement. Maintenance needs, so if you have a leak, if you have a break, we have to go in there and repair it. So we do not want to do that, which is one reason why we try to get cast iron pipe replaced before we pave over the pavement. So the other thing is that, especially redevelopment, that's tricky in order to coordinate that. So let's just talk about the south side. So south side went from like a residential area to medical district, more commercial area. What you have is you have water and sewer taps set up for residential lots. As that area redevelops, those lots configurations change, and potentially what you're having to do is actually remove taps and add taps in different locations. So if you go in there and replace the infrastructure ahead of the redevelopment, then those services may have to be killed, and normally get killed at the main. So that would potentially trigger cutting new pavement as part of the redevelopment. So there is a balance between getting ahead of development and trying to coordinate with development as part of the development work. And I just mention that because there are a lot of circumstances where this is something that has kind of triggered us to have to go in and cut pavement. And then the last bullet is more related to, we've been really kind of very, very focused on cast iron since 2021, even before that, but mostly since 2021. And in the past, when we didn't have a project that was in the queue, we would clear a street that had cast iron in it. We don't do that anymore, but I will tell you there's a lot of new pavement out there when they were cleared prior to 2021. So I think that's the last bullet that we have, and we'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Chris. Questions from council? No? Councilmember Crane?
Thanks for that update. I want to say, please get Westridge done as fast as possible.
So Camp Bowie is next, and that's not going to be any fun.
Yes, I know. But thank y'all for that and making it and minimizing it as much as possible. We still hear from it. I know the mayor still hears from folks there too as well. So anything we can do to help and just alerting people as things change on that street, or we get calls too that it's nothing's happening, but I know that's coordination too. But do appreciate that work and appreciate the work in Westcliff too and getting all that sort of under control as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Flores.
Well, a question for both of you. The coordination for the capital projects to continue, the 50-50 work approach. Funding in the past has, been a concern. We're in better shape, yes, but could you speak to that a little bit? I mean, are we substantially in better shape? You can continue to coordinate, or will they be anticipated bumps in the road?
Yeah, well, just speaking about the 50-50 program, so right now that's funded about $3.5 million in TPW's PAYGO budget, and Water Department matches that as well. So in our 50-50 program, we prioritize that, for cast iron replacement, as well as where we have good curb and gutter conditions. So we have a lot of projects that we can use that money on. Can always use more money in that category, but we are using it efficiently.
And I'll just say, so we're committed to getting 20 miles of cast iron pipe replaced a year. We've also committed to the state that we're going to replace 10 miles of sanitary sewer line. So the $3.5 million will probably do 2 or 3 projects. So that's a small percentage of our projects that we have.
Councilmember Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Flores, for bringing up the funding. So sometimes it's not just a funding issue, it's a capacity issue. So say, for example, if in next year's budget we said we want to commit $5 million to the 50-50 program as opposed to 3.5, one, does water have the capacity to match that? Second is, does TPW and water have the capacity to ramp up those projects? And do we have the manpower to handle that as well, is the second question.
Yeah, well, so how the 50-50 operates right now is that after that $3.5 million is exhausted, Water Department may fund the full paving of those streets. So that would certainly go a lot longer in ways to having more streets paved in coordination with the water upgrades. I believe we have the capacity now in our contractors, and regardless, we would have to accelerate our capabilities if we were to pursue more street maintenance funding in general.
Yeah, I don't see it being a resource issue on that, because think about it this way. We want to move forward with the project, whether we're going to include the curb and gutter and the driveways and the sidewalk, that just is dependent on the funding, the 50-50 funding. So from an engineering or project management standpoint, there's really not any big, huge increase in the amount of responsibility, whether we're going to do the curb and gutter or not.
Danny wanted to add something.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Lauren, do you want to speak to the street maintenance fee study and how that might relate to the funding question?
Sure. So we are in the early stages of looking at the street maintenance fee in terms of what that would be, what that would cost, and how that would be appropriated to different land uses. And essentially, that money would be used in our maintenance program, which is also supplemented by that 50/50.
Any other questions? No. Thank you all both for the presentation. Next up is use of interest earnings and City Hall expenditures, and Christiane Simmons and Marilyn Marvin are going to conduct this. Uh-oh, Marilyn, what happened?
I twisted her arm to get this presentation.
Man, this does not look fun. I'm sorry.
I had surgery yesterday.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Are you right-handed at least?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right-handed. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Marilyn Marvin, Property Management Director. And I just have 3 quick slides, and then Christiane has the last slide on where we stand with this building from beginning to where we are today. So we started, the building purchase was $69.5 million, and we had an original scope that was funded with $107 million, a little over. And then we requested in February of '23 an additional $50 million, bringing the budget for this project to $226.5 million. And I know this is a little small, so I hope you can read it, but the original scope for this building was 900 people. And then we realized that we could empty out some buildings and bring more people over, and so it became, we added an additional 700 employees. So we have about 1,600 employees now that reside in this building. And what that meant was, originally we were going to remodel 8 floors, and then we were going to have 4 floors plus the mezzanine and the lobby that would be as is. We wouldn't do anything to them. But because we added 700 employees to come to the building, then we added floor 15, which was not originally in scope, and the 4 floors, 10, 11, 16, and 17 now needed to be remodeled. So we added, we had an addition of 5 floors that needed to be remodeled to the original 8. The lobby and the mezzanine had to have changes due to the council chambers change. And that was because the floodway, the floodplain that we had to accommodate for. So originally the council chambers was 1 story, and it only included this room and the council chambers. It became a 3-story building, which it is today, and then we added an additional 13,000 square feet to the building. So you have your executive session room, your green room, a catering kitchen, we had security space, and we moved Fort Worth TV from Old City Hall to here. That was not in the original scope. And throughout the construction of the building, we discovered several things. The lighting control system had to be totally replaced, and we had mechanical infrastructure issues with, I know y'all aren't surprised, the elevators, some restrooms, and some staircases that increased, were part of that $50 million request in February of 2023. Floors that were never in scope were floor 18 and 19. The tenant decided to do an early buyout of their lease for floor 19, and we decided to move law to floor 19. We added 6 offices. What we did is we took a couple of offices and we built a wall in between them. That was done by property management staff and came out of our operational funds. And the rest of the floor for law was as is. The furniture, everything was as is, how the tenant left it. And floor 18 was not in scope because the tenant was going to continue to renew their lease, and they decided this year, about April, that they were not going to renew, and their lease ended August 31st of this year, and they are totally out of the building. And before I let Christiane talk about the next slide, are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to go back to that prior slide? There was a note you added.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that, Dana. In February, when we requested the $50 million for this additional scope, there was a slide. It was hard to see if you didn't pay attention, but had we built this building from the ground up, council chambers and the tower, at the time in February of '23, it would have cost $391 million. which was more than the 226 that we've spent on the building. Thank you, Dana.
Councilmember Blaylock.
Hi, Marilyn. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question I asked you a little bit
Yes.
earlier that I'd like to ask openly. So we've moved a large number of employees into this building. Can you tell us about what's happening with some of the spaces we vacated?
Absolutely. So 900 Monroe and 908 Monroe, that's the Gordon Swift building and the gas building. Gordon Swift is completely empty. The gas building still has environmental services and sister cities in it, but they will move to Old City Hall, 200 Texas Street. Those two buildings, along with the two surface lots just to the south, so where council used to park and where the water customers parked, those two lots and the two buildings are on the market today. And then 40 West 13th Street, downtown as well, was originally property management, then development services went there. That building is completely empty, and there are two surface lots behind it, and those are also on the market. You're welcome.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Okay.
Christiane.
Good afternoon. I only have the one slide today, and really I'm just here to remind you that in August, we talked about interest earnings. And so part of our recommendation at the time was to appropriate $2 million of that $27 million to the 18th floor finish out. But then we had some questions at the table, so we decided we'd bring you back this presentation. You did approve the interest earnings M&C last week, but we did not do this $2 million because of these pending questions. So we sent that $2 million instead to fund balance. So at this stage, since we've done that, if you are interested in the recommendation to build out floor 18 at this time, what we would do is appropriate the $2 million that we then sent to fund balance, probably in the year-end closing M&C. So that's what staff would recommend now, is appropriating $2 million for one-time funding for the 18th floor. Next time we do an appropriation, likely in the year-end closing M&C, which is usually January. So it's just a quick reminder of kind of what we'd said last month and kind of where we stand today.
Thanks, Christiane. Council member question. Councilmember Beck.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for putting this together. I know I was the one that created the stink about the dollars. I really appreciate y'all putting this together. I know it's a question that I get as I move about the city. How much are we going to spend on that new city hall? So this is incredibly helpful in helping me wrap my brain around where we've been and where we want to go. And so I'm much more comfortable now appropriating that $2 million. So again, thank you. I'm sorry I had to twist your arm to get it.
I'll talk to you then.
Thank y'all. Any other questions or comments for staff? No, both. Thank you very much for putting this together, and to the rest of you, and to Dana and the team that helped make this transition. I know it's been a lot of work, but I think everybody is enjoying and appreciates the space. Okay.
Are there any concerns with us potentially moving forward in that direction from any other?
No concerns on my end, council members. Okay, thank you. Council, that's the conclusion of our official presentations. I'll now move to requests for future agenda items or reports from council members. Anyone? Councilmember Nettles?
Yes, I have a couple of future agenda items. One, the process of the choosing of the food vendor for the City Hall cafeteria. We can get an IR on that. Also, I want to ask legal for an IR or a presentation on the difference between a president's order and a resolution process for the city to abide. Also with internal emails, Leanne, I want to ask about the attorney and counsel-client privilege when screenshots are taken without a PIR of internal emails.
Any other future agenda items from council? No? Okay, council meeting is adjourned.